When do we go live?
Okay.
We are recording now.
Okay, great. Good evening. I'm Bill Bowie, and welcome to the committee and board meeting this evening, January 26, 2022. It is 6:32, and I will make the requisite motion so we can conduct these meetings virtually. To conduct this meeting wholly electronically and to effectuate both the emergency procedures authorized by FOIA and the Fairfax County Emergency Ordinance, the Park Authority Board needs to make certain findings and determinations for the record, as we did at our first electronic meeting. During our meeting, if you wish to be recognized, please raise your hand, and when I recognize you, please state your name. This will ensure that you are recognized and the public knows who's speaking. If you intend to vote nay or abstain on any item, we will need to do a roll call on those votes. Because each member of this board is participating in this meeting from a separate location, we must verify that a quorum of members is participating and that each member's voice is clear, audible, and at an appropriate volume for all of the other members. Accordingly, I'm going to conduct a roll call and ask each board member participating in the meetings to state your name and the location from which you are participating. I ask that each one of you pay close attention to ensure that you can hear each of your colleagues. And following this roll call, we will vote to establish that every member can hear every other member's voice, and we will go alphabetically. Also, as the evening progresses, if additional board members join us for our meetings, I will ask them to verify their audibility and their location. So with that, Abena Adu.
I'm Abena Adu, and I am joining from my residence in the Lee District.
Cynthia Carter.
This is Cynthia Jacobs Carter, and I am joining from my residence in Lee District.
Linwood Gorham.
This is Linwood Gorham, and I'm joining from my residence in Mount Vernon Magisterial District.
Tim Hackman.
Tim Hackman, attending from my home in the Drainsville District.
Ron Kendall is absent and excused this evening. Faisal Khan.
Faisal Khan, I am at my residence in Providence District.
Ken Quincy.
Ken Quincy, I'm at my residence in the Providence District.
Mike Thompson.
Mike Thompson, I'm at my residence in the Springfield District.
And Jim Zook.
Right here.
Jim Zook.
This is Jim Zook from my home in the Springfield District.
Great. And Maggie Godbowl is also absent and excused this evening. I'm Bill Bowie, and I'm participating from my residence in the Hunter Mill District. At this point, I'll pass the virtual gavel to Vice Chairman Quincy so that I may be heard to make the requisite motion. I move that each member's voice may be adequately heard by each other member of this board.
Ken Quincy, you have heard the motion. Is there a second?
This is Mike Thompson. I second the motion.
Ken Quincy, it has been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. That motion passes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Second, having established that each member's voice may be heard by each other member, we must next establish the nature of the emergency that compels these emergency procedures, the fact that we are meeting electronically, what type of electronic communication is being used, and how we have arranged for public access to this meeting. Therefore, I move that the state of emergency caused by the COVID-19 pandemic makes it unsafe for this board to physically assemble and unsafe for the public to physically attend any such meeting. And that as such, FOIA's usual procedures, which require the physical assembly of this board and the physical presence of the public, cannot be implemented safely or practically. I further move that this board may conduct this meeting electronically via Zoom. It is so moved.
Ken Quincy, you have heard the motion. Is there a second?
Tim Hackman, I second.
Ken Quincy, is there discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. Mr. Chairman, the motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Quincy, and I will turn it over to you to begin the Budget Committee meeting.
Okay, Ken Quincy, I'm Chairman of the Budget Committee. And I call the Budget Committee meeting to order and will ask Mr. Mike Peters to present the item.
Thank you very much, Mr. Committee Chair Quincy. I appreciate the opportunity to come before you tonight to talk about a couple of things where we need some allocation on some bond funds, but really more importantly, to talk about the process we have undergone to be able to address some of our most urgent maintenance needs and to be able to apply both our general fund sinking funds and our stimulus funds. So I'll go through a little bit of that. Please stop me if there are any questions, and we will get to the action item towards the end of this presentation. Next slide, please, Allison. You've seen this before. You saw this in Director Cole's presentation on the CIP just a couple of months ago, and we update this each year, of course, as we take a look at all of our assets and we look at what are the total costs associated with dealing with our assets that are at or near the end of their lives. This $166 million, these are all things that are in need of repair. This is not the expansion of services. These are areas that have been identified by staff as needing to have some investment. These could be restrooms. These could be, of course, as you see here, roads and parking lots, trails, playgrounds. This is that basic list that we've taken a look at quite a bit. And as we've mentioned before, when we've asked our residents in Fairfax County how they would spend $100, we said that in our last needs assessment survey, residents said that $70 should go to maintaining existing parks and facilities. We're not quite at that 70% road at this point, but we are certainly enjoying some investment in this year. So you see we have a lot here. This list went from $159 million in deferred maintenance in FY20. Now it's at about $166 million. Some of this certainly is CIP work, but also some is work that can be done in-house if we have the staff available to do this. So what we've done in the Park Authority with our staff, with our division directors, with all involved, we've developed a process that we call our PPL, or our Project Prioritization List. Allison, next slide, please. You might have to squint just a little bit to see this, but we wanted you to be able to see sort of our swim lanes in terms of, number one, the needs are identified by our staff out in the field. Jay's also brought quite a few needs to our attentions. I believe, Jay, you're at 194 or 200 parks at this point. So that certainly adds into this list as well. We evaluate, do our best job to come up with what we believe the estimated cost would be for replacement. And if it's not something that we have operational funding available for, then it goes into this project prioritization workflow where we're looking for all of our different alternative funding sources to figure out what best can we apply to make these happen. That gets us into the middle swim lane where we go through a prioritization process. After working, of course, with the board and working with Jay and Sarah and Amy, we've identified different priority funding buckets that we can put each of these types of projects in. Now, we'll talk about those buckets in just a moment. It's important to note, though, that just because something may be in one bucket, it doesn't mean it doesn't affect several other things as well. We're just looking at the primary issue that we're trying to address there in that lane. Once we've prioritized, then we go into the third swim lane to get a sense of if we have funding, how do we prioritize? How do we then vote within those buckets? And by putting these buckets together, next slide, please. We're able to go through this strategy where we work with each divisions, we work with the director's office, we have different tracking mechanisms. What we do with sorting through all of this is then figure out how do we make sure if we have, say, a safety project, we need to be able to measure those against other safety projects and not against something that might be a primary revenue focus, for instance. So within this process and within these funds that we have worked to have awarded this year, we have focused really again on that $166 million, the taking care of what we have bucket, if you will. Next slide. So within this, again, we identify what funding we have, and then we look based on what we have. We look at taking care of existing assets and services, and then also we would go through a similar process for new or expansion of our assets and services. Because we have this $166 million backlog, we're focusing on that first square, the taking care of what we have. Next slide, please. So working with Jay and Sarah and Amy, we identified these different primary funding buckets. All of our different projects will have a primary focus in one of these different areas. Now, as I said earlier, if you look at that first bucket, safety, if we have something in safety, that means that it's the predominant issue, but there may also be equity considerations. There may also be revenue considerations. That's just how we sort of focus to be able to separate these out. And what this also allows us to do at the beginning of the year, working with the director's office, identifying in these buckets, what are going to be the strategic focus areas? How much of a percentage of every dollar? And gosh, if we could get to that 70 cents for, or $70 for every $100 that's spent out there, that would be wonderful. But from what we have, how much are we going to allocate into each one of these different buckets? So we certainly use our mission and our vision to be able to guide these, but we focus then with these buckets of safety, equity, regulatory compliance, which generally is going to be something like ADA compliance. Now, we do have funding in our operational budget for ADA, but that's just a good example to kind of drive that home. We have revenue. Golf is a good example, and we have projects that we are looking to enhance the experience at our golf courses or in our different revenue producing centers. Operations, that's generally going to be things like HVAC at a non-revenue side, maybe it's a bathroom renovation, and then we also have aesthetics and beautification. Next slide, please. So within those buckets, what we did with all of our different divisions, we took that list of $166 million and we asked each of the divisions to determine what are their top priorities, things that need to be fixed immediately. And what came out of all of this stuff is a list of projects and initiatives that total about $14.5 million. And that's where some of these action items will come into play here in just a second. Within this $14.5 million, you can see the buckets, again, operations, safety, equity, revenue, conservation and stewardship, aesthetics, and there's a small amount in there for regulatory compliance. But again, I want to stress that those primary projects, we have an operational line item to deal with issues such as ADA on a regular basis. Next slide. So our summary of funding that's available, what we've been talking about over the past several months, what we celebrated when the Board of Supervisors agreed to make sure that we could use $7.5 million of ARPA funds. We're looking at, of course, stimulus funds, our general sinking funds, which was a big number going into this year, $4.9 million. And we're also talking about an allocation from bond and proffer funds for specific projects that are connected to those bonds, just shuffling a little bit of the timeline around. Next slide, please. So just to remind everyone, we were awarded $7,522,122 for deferred maintenance that we identified as really being due to revenue loss. As the board is certainly aware, we used all of our stabilization funds, all of our different optional funds that we could pull together to be able to stave off the revenue loss that we felt in FY20 and then going into FY21. And as a result, we weren't investing back into our facilities. So as part of that, as we presented to the board earlier in the summer, this award is intended for about $5 million to go towards revenue fund facilities and a little bit over $2.5 million for non-revenue parks and facilities. Next slide, please. And here's the other one-time funding that we're talking about. We already talked about the sinking fund. We are using some bond premium and bond money that had already been approved for critical rec center and golf issues. We'll go through our bond reallocation request in just a moment. And then we also have worked through in the Springfield district a proffer use request to assist with one of these projects. I think it's also important to note we do have, we'll talk a little bit about what some of these projects are, but these projects are spread across every single district in the county. So there will be work done at rec centers, at lakefront parks, on trails and restrooms, at campsites, all across our system. And one of the key things, if you remember just a moment ago in ARPA funding, we talked about that $2.5 million actually from the allocation that we had there. And we're working very closely with Jay and with the rest of our leadership team to really determine how do we allocate that and deal with equity issues specifically throughout our system. So Jay, we'll go to slide 11, Allison, and then Jay, if you want to take this point.
Sure. So when we're talking about specifically the 2.5 million, I wanted to make it clear that when you're talking about equity, that's not it. That's not where we're putting $2.5 million aside for equity, and then all the rest of the money goes to all the non-equity areas. Equity is an and so the idea with the equity is we look at projects and we think, okay, this is their normal project. How can we? Maybe we want to take a $200,000 playground and make it a $300,000 playground because it's in an equity area. That 100,000 would come out of that pot, not the whole 300,000. So it's a way to expand and enhance some of the projects that we're doing in some of our areas of opportunity. We have been in talks. I think that I talked about it last time. We're in talks with Department of Family Services, NCS, HHS, Health Department, and One Fairfax to try to figure out really how do we go into certain neighborhoods with a bit of a scalpel and determine what we could do in total that can really impact that community. That's parks and community centers, and if it's sidewalks or crosswalks or whatever it is. So I think closer to when the county executive releases his budget, which will be, I believe, the day before, 22nd, February the 22nd, we'll have a little bit more of an idea of what that looks like going into our budget cycle. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you very much, Jay. So there'll be a lot more coming on that. We're working with our partner agencies here on these initiatives, certainly focusing on One Fairfax and really using this as an opportunity to enhance our efforts out there. So thank you very much for that. Next slide, please, Allison. Just to give you a quick flavor of some of the projects that we are talking about, these are generally going to be big ticket projects. So we have, for instance, that you see the water heater at Oakmar Cub Run. It's both the roof over the natatorium and leisure pool replacements. The clubhouse carpet replacement at Twin Lakes, and we're doing several of those things at our different clubhouses. And then you can also see, we've seen different pictures of the chiller at Audrey Moore. This is yet another picture of just that aging infrastructure that we have there, which then leads us into the action item that was in the board package. If you could go to the next slide. We are asking tonight for the Budget Committee to approve the allocation or reallocation of project funds for some scope adjustment on some specific infrastructure needs. So we talked about 14.5 million. We talked about the ARPA funds. We talked about the majority of the sinking funds. And there are a couple of items in here where we have investment planned and we are recommending to the board that we move forward now with some of these replacements as opposed to wait on a couple of these projects. And those are listed on the next slide, Allison. So here you can see that we have three primary requests here. We have identified at Lake Accotink, regardless of all of the other issues that we're facing at Lake Accotink, the dam there has to be repaired. It's not necessarily major repairs that need to be done. As you can see, we're focusing on about $70,000 there, but it's enough if we don't do it now, then it's only going to get worse. So we are asking to be able to use from the 2012 bond $70,000 of that amount that was already set aside for Akatik infrastructure and amenities. On the second line there, we have the Audrey Moore Rec Center renovation as part of our 2020 bond. With that renovation, when we get to the point that we're undergoing that project, we would be replacing the chiller, and we're also certainly focusing on the skate park there as well. So we're asking to be able to move forward with this now, as opposed to waiting several years until we get to the Audrey Moore Rec Center renovation. Similarly, on Lake Fairfax, the dam spillway is in need of repairs. And in the 2020 bond, we did set aside funds for Lake Fairfax Park improvements. So we're asking to be able to use $250,000 from that amount. And on the next slide, you can see, if we approve these, what the resulting balance would be for each of those items. So if we receive approval for the reallocation for Lake Akatik, it would leave $930,000 available. The $20 million set aside in the 2020 bond for Audrey Moore Rec Center renovation would leave a bit over 19.6 million. And Lake Fairfax, the original amount was 2.9 million, and we have identified both things happening at Lake Fairfax, but we also agreed in a previous meeting to reallocate some funds to the Sully Woodlands Education Center. So after that, and after this proposed reallocation, we would still have $920,000 available for Lake Fairfax Park improvements. And next slide, please, Alex. So that covers all of these details. I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to present this and see if there are any questions. Otherwise, I can turn it back over to Committee Chair Quincy. Looks like Mike has a question.
Is that okay, Ken?
Yes. No, I see.
Yeah, did I? So when I was looking at the document, I had assumed that it was just bad luck with the Audrey Moore, with the chiller. That was one of those things that went bad. We weren't going to be able to make it to renovation. Based on what you just said, are we actually able to use the new equipment we're buying? Are we going to be able to use it in the new building once it gets renovated and done, or is it just bad luck and we have to do it?
It is bad luck, but we are using this as an opportunity to plan with our planning and development colleagues to make sure what we do and where we put it can be used in the new version of the building. So
Awesome.
The plan
Okay.
is we're just investing early as opposed to late.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask if that was possible, but you guys have already done it. That's awesome. Good work. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Ken Quincy, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Jay. I'll ask now if there's a consensus to move this item forward.
Yes.
Everybody?
Yes.
Okay. Before I adjourn, I should update one number. That is, I think Jay is over 250 visits now. If there are no other questions, I will adjourn the budget.
Well,
Yeah.
wait.
Yes, yes.
Before you adjourn, only because I think it helps in time, and I don't know once we adjourn if we can do this. Bill, do you want to do? Kyle just joined. Do you want to do the Kyle join piece?
Yeah, we
I don't
can
know
do
how long
that
he's been
now.
on.
So Kyle Stone, can you tell us who you are and from where you're participating?
Sure. My name is Kyle Stone, calling in from my residence in the Braddock District.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. There are no other items to discuss. I will hereby adjourn the Budget Committee.
All right, and we will start the board meeting in 4 minutes. So you have a 4-minute dinner break. Get your popcorn.
Can't even get coffee in 4 minutes, Bill.
Yeah.
Not the kind of coffee you drink.
That's bulletproof coffee.
That's right. Heavy stuff.
Yeah, you drink real coffee. All right, it is 7 o'clock. This is Bill Bowie, and I'd like to call to order the January 26, 2022 Park Authority Board meeting. Absent and excused this evening are Maggie Godboll and Ron Kendall. We always start our meetings with a public comment period. There were no members of the public that had signed up previously. Are there any members of the public out there that would like to speak?
We have no members who have contacted us regarding this.
Okay.
Judy Peterson, Public Information Officer.
Thank you, Judy. Okay, with that, we will go into the administrative items. Countywide admin item number 2 is the adoption of the minutes of the January 12th, 2022 Park Authority Board meeting.
Ken Quincy, I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carries. Under action items in the Braddock District and the Hunter Mill District, A1 is the reallocation of project funds for scope adjustment of specific infrastructure needs. Is there a motion?
Ken Quincy, I make the motion to approve the reallocation of project funds for scope adjustment on specific infrastructure needs.
This is Tim Hackman. I second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carries. Under information items countywide, we had the information item number 1 was the update of infrastructure projects impacting Parkland and Hunter Mill and Providence District was the I-2, the Tysons and Reston status report. I think this is the quickest we've ever gone to chairman's matters in the second minute of the meeting. So needless to say, we've been extremely busy. I've been serving on this redistricting commission, and we are into looking at the potential for renaming districts. The commission decided to look at 5 districts: Lee, Sully, Springfield, Mason, and Mount Vernon. We meet every Tuesday and Thursday until March from 6 until 8. There was a robust discussion last night, and I think the first preliminary vote is going to take place after some initial reporting next Tuesday. We've canceled the Thursday meetings to do some additional research. It seemed that Mount Vernon and Mason have been pretty much taken off of the table in terms of the consideration, but that won't be official until next week. The role of the commission is to only recommend changing those names. The role of the commission is not to recommend what those potential names could be. And so once our report is done and all of our research is done, we will turn our report over to the Board of Supervisors, and then they will have their own process to decide what they're going to do. But it's been pretty fascinating work. In addition to the supervisory districts, we're also considering the renaming of 29 precincts out of the 230 some precincts throughout the county that potentially could have conflicts with one Fairfax, with the Confederacy, or issues around geographic location. That's the biggest discussion around Springfield, is not the Springfield name itself, but what does Springfield represent? Because most of Springfield is not in Springfield. So will there be an appetite to decide on what they want to do with that? Thank you to Jay and Sarah and Amy and staff for putting out the report today. If you have not had a chance to look at it, it goes through the 2 separate reports. One shows all of the different districts and how the precincts change moving from one district to another. And then the second document specifically went to every magisterial district and what parks are in those districts, what parks remain, and what parks move to another district. So if you have not had a chance to look at that, please do. A surprise to all of us during the process was the fact that Providence had grown so large. It was the most populous of all of the districts. And so when the rebalancing took place, Providence got hit the hardest in terms of moving things around in parks and things like that.
That hurt.
Hunter Mill didn't get hit. The other thing, there was an announcement by the board yesterday. They maintained their AAA bond rating, which is fantastic. And there was a bond sale, which is another fantastic thing. We don't know what the bond premium will be on that yet, but we are certainly looking forward to spending that money when we get it and making sure we do the right thing. Again, Jay and team have done a fantastic job across the street working with DMB and the CFO and the deputy county executive and the county executive, and looking at the budget for FY 2023 and how we can get more bang for our buck and get additional contributions based on needs that we're actually producing and showing them where the needs are, so that we can validate those requests for additional funds. So again, thank you, and thanks to all the board members that have helped put that together. And then the last thing for me is we had the budget meeting. One thing that I have not seen recently, and I mean, I harped on it years ago about it, was a proffer report. Do we have an updated proffer report that we can send out to all of the board members, especially in light of the discussion around One Fairfax and equity? There may be some pet projects in addition to, in combination with Maston Brook, that we may be able to move forward. And if we're looking to make impacts, that is the most immediate way to do that. So I would ask if staff could get those reports out on the proffers by district, so we can see what's restricted, what's not restricted, and where we may be able to make an impact in a particular community. And with that, I will turn it over to the director.
So Bill assured me that I now have 23 minutes to talk because you guys definitely want to stay till 8. So I wanted to start off with a couple of videos. They're very short, but I think that they're very important and apropos to watch. The first, Alison, let's do the Sully Woodlands. So this week we went to do the groundbreaking for the Sully Woodlands project, which is a phenomenal project. I think it was actually a really nice day to go out there, and I believe that there's a video that we want to show. Nope, sound's not on, Allison.
Oh, you can't hear the sound.
Jay, you're muted.
I said sorry while I was muted. When you go to share screen, I think there's a box that you click for share audio. Share computer audio.
Let me, yes.
There we go.
As an ecologist, I think it's so important to build things that have a light footprint on the ground, and to be teaching kids and adults about sustainability and how you can leave a small footprint and still have a massive impact. I just hope that everybody can come out and see this phenomenal facility when it's done. Thank you, Allison. It was a really great day. We're all looking very much forward to being able to go out there for a ribbon cutting. Soon it'll be here before everybody knows it. And so I know Maggie would have wished that she was here. She's very excited about this project. So we all, hurrayed in the background for her. The second thing I wanted to talk about is, let me pull it up, is so last week there was what's called a resuscitation reunion at Laurel Hill Golf Course. So this is a Fairfax Fire and Rescue program that reunites survivors of near fatal events with the citizens and public safety personnel who played an important role in their survival. So in October of last year, a citizen went into cardiac arrest on the golf course at Laurel Hill. He was saved by a bystander CPR and an AED that was stationed at the golf course. If not for our dedication to providing an accessible AED in this location, this may not have been such a good news story. So I just want to, Allison, can you pull up that video? It's a very short 1-minute video, but it's a feel good that happened at one of our facilities.
We're happy to welcome everybody here today. It's our opportunity to celebrate Mr. Tom Colburn, a cardiac arrest survivor, and to honor the 6 citizens that played a critically important role in saving his life on that day. My wife had said to me in the hospital, what do you do? What do you give to somebody that saved your life?
Thank you so much. It's a personal thing for me, encouraging everybody to learn CPR because it really can save somebody's life. So that was a really great news story. I want to really commend Bob Johnson, our risk manager. I got to tell you, everywhere that I've been, risk management usually comes from an island of no, and I was just so such a breath of fresh air to meet Bob and being somebody who is so positive and helpful and encouraging and really does instill in our employees that he's there to help. In our AED program, I really can say the county program really did save a life there. So kudos to everybody involved in that. Oh, no. So our spring version of Park Takes is out. We're very excited about that. You hopefully got yours in the mail. So I want to congratulate Cindy Fortunio and John Rogers, the Public Affairs Office, the Heritage Program teams, and the programming staff across all sites for putting it together, and for everybody else who contributed. The cover is pretty awesome with some kids on kayaks. So we're very excited about that. I also wanted to give you a little bit of an update. I said last time we had a phenomenal opening of our camps. So right now, spring break and summer camp enrollment is just over 15,000. Summer is about 14,500 by itself. Well, to date, we filled 59% of our total capacity. Our maximum spaces available are currently at 25,500. 33% of our offerings are full or have a wait list. And that brings us to a total camp revenue for FY22 of over 5.2 million. So we're very, very excited about that. As Bill had mentioned, we are diligently working on our budget, talking to people across the street and trying to advocate for ourselves to get some budget funding to be able to support some of our programs. So we'll have a little bit more to report later on. And I was this week, I was on I was interviewed for a Park and Recreation National show. It's called Good News Parks. And during that, I'm trying to find it because I have to read it. Judy wrote a beautiful thing. Oh, there it is. During that show, one of the segments was on capital planning. So I talked about, capital planning, and I was there with a couple other directors across the country, talking about how we do planning and sort of good best practices. And the link isn't out yet, but I can share it when that comes out. But my favorite part of the interview was I got to highlight a employee who sort of went above and beyond, and we did Cindy. So could you share that link? So I talked about Cindy. I've now lost my, hold on. There it is. Nope. Hold on. I have to read it. I really am not going to take till 3 o'clock. Okay, I'll just talk. So Cindy, during the COVID pandemic, as everybody knows, Cindy sort of is the go-to division director. I think she's had every division director position in the Park Authority up till right now. As you guys probably know, especially right before COVID, with our loss of our R&D director, we split that division. So Cindy not only took on the Park Services division, but also picked up a lot of the Resources Management division positions. She really is a go-to person for pretty much everything. I feel like I have to explain away the second picture that she's not yelling at somebody. That's a retirement. And she is talking passionately about a retiree there. So I had the opportunity to sort of talk about one particular staff. I asked if it could be all staff, but I just wanted to give a little bit of a kudos to Cindy and that she got a little bit of national recognition. And I'll save the, I'll send you all the link when it comes out. And that's what I have.
Excellent. Congratulations, Cindy.
Thank you. Very
Well
flattered.
deserved. Well deserved. All right.
I know I was gonna do it then. Is she okay? Are you okay, Cindy? You're good. Okay. I don't think she even knew I was gonna show. I know. It's fine.
All right, let's go on to board matters. Mr. Zook.
I pass, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Hackman.
Tim Hackman, I pass also. Thank you, Bill.
Okay. Linwood.
Sorry about that. I pass.
Okay. Ken.
Just one comment following up on Jay's comments on Cindy. Well-deserved, but just representative of the dedication and efforts of the whole Park Authority staff.
Great. Thank you. Dr. Adu.
Thank you. I'll pass.
Dr. Carter.
Thank you. I just wanted to say kudos to Jay and the team for the excellent redistricting report. I was happy to see the new parks in Lee District. Thank you.
Kyle.
Nothing for me, thanks.
Okay. Mike.
Yeah, real quick, couple quick things. First of all, so for the board's information as a whole and for staff, I don't know, I joined the athletic council, I don't know, like 15 years ago. And when I did, there was a lot of friction between the athletic council and the park authority staff. There was lots of communication issues and concerns that were expressed. To tell you how far we've come, Kurt and I are both on a committee dealing with some communication issues, and all of the issues are really school focused. There's some most of the issues with NCS are the fact that schools aren't updating some NCS, some joint calendar things. But one of the things that a number of people have called out is the positive communication with the park authority. So I just wanted to highlight for folks on the board that positive feedback from athletic council members who tend to be very heavy users and tend to have lots of requests and comments. But I thought that was good news that I wanted to pass on to everybody. Along with that, the only other thing, Bill, you brought up the Massenbrook grants, and what occurred to me is that there have not been a lot of in-person meetings. I know that when NCS would hold its meetings with all the athletic groups once a year, I would always mention it. A lot of the groups wouldn't know about it or whatever. Maybe we should put together some information about those and send it to a wider variety of the advisory boards and membership things around the county, because there are probably a lot of groups out there that have ideas on things that could be done in parks that, you know, they could be helpful in doing it if they knew that there's a group out there that could do a match up to $20,000 or something. But it might be worth considering just kind of distributing that far and wide every once in a while.
That's a great idea, Mike, and we can work on that. Maybe get it to our friends groups. Again, refresh them as well as all of the athletic users and trails folks as well. Because
Well, yeah, I mean, That's what I'm thinking, Bill, is it go beyond just often our friends groups, often our sport or the athletic partners and stuff, we hit them every few years with a reminder.
Right.
But I'm just thinking that there may be a whole lot of groups out there that deal with everything from it may be some of the equity issues or some of the homeless issues or any number of things that may have ideas of, oh, we could improve that park and help our community. And they may not have any idea that this grant even exists. So I'm just thinking just going far and wide with it might be a good idea.
Good idea. Thank you. Mr. Khan.
All right, so just a quick kudos to Jay and the staff, especially Cindy. And Jay, I love the jacket you were wearing in the video. Bill, we need those jackets for next time.
Okay.
So with that, I'll pass.
All right. I may be walking into the Lion's Den on Friday. In fact, I'm sure that I'm walking into the Lion's Den on Friday. I'm having lunch with Helen White, who is the pickleball queen. But at least it's going to be on my turf if we're going to have this discussion. So stay tuned. I'll let you know what the result is. But I know she's coming with hat in hand. And with that, I will turn it over to Faisal Khan for the election of officers for 2022.
Great, I just finished my ice cream in time. So, all right, so thank you everyone. We are going to start this process, and a copy of the proposed slate for the 2022 Park Authority Board Officer has been distributed, and each member should have received a copy via email via the director's office. The following names have been placed in nomination. For the chairman's position, Mr. William G. Bowie. For vice chair, Maggie Godbold. For secretary, Michael Thompson. And for the treasurer's position, Timothy Hackman. So we're gonna start the process now. The nominee for the office of the chairman is William G. Bowie. Are there any other nominees from the floor? Well, seeing and hearing none. Do I have the motion to close the nomination for the chairman?
So moved. Mike Thompson, so moved.
Tim Hackman, second.
All right, good. All those in favor of William G. Bowie for chairman, say aye.
Aye.
Say no. Well, there you have it. So we're going to move to the next nominee for the vice chairman. The nominee for the vice chair is Maggie Godbold. Are there any nominees from the floor? Seeing and hearing none, do I have the motion to close the nomination for the vice chair?
Ken Quincy, so moved.
Mike Thompson, second.
All those in favor of Maggie Godbold for vice chair, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Well, the ayes have it. For the secretary position, the nominee for the office of the secretary is Michael Thompson. Are there any nominees from the floor? Well, seeing and hearing none, do I have the motion to close the nomination for secretary?
So moved. Tim Hackman.
Do we have a second?
Second, Ken Quincy.
All those in favor of Michael Thompson for secretary, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Well, the ayes have it. So last one here. The nominee for the office of the treasurer position is Mr. Timothy Hackman. Are there any nominees from the floor? Well, seeing and hearing none, do I have the motion to close the nomination for treasurer?
Ken Quincy, so moved.
Mike Thompson, second.
All those in favor of Timothy Hackman for treasurer, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. So the final executive committee for 2022 Park Authority Board officers are Chairman William G. Bowie, Vice Chair Maggie Godbold, Secretary Michael Thompson, Treasurer Timothy Hackman. On behalf of the nomination committee, I congratulate the 2022 Fairfax County Park Authority Board officers and thank all the board members for their support during the nomination process.
Thank you, Faisal.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Faisal. Thank you.
Much gratitude, Ken. Thank you very much for everything you've done.
Absolutely.
Ken.
Well,
Thank you.
It's not over. We're all equal team members. That needs to be said. And the only thing I get to do is I get the honor of being your spokesman. But everybody brings something vital to this board. And that's what's so great about it is everybody contributes. Everybody's got some unique qualities. And the people in the county see it. The results are there. So kudos to every one of the board members and the staff members for your confidence. All right. With that, Linwood, you can get your ice cream before 7:30. We are adjourned. Again, if you've got anything with redistricting, any comments you want to send me, please do that. I appreciate it. So take care. Have a great evening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Faisal.
You're welcome.